If you're going to cheat with a cheat box, cheat like you mean it. Apparently it's okay to cheat in the FGC now. Cheat boxes have been cheating for 10 plus years. How is this still an argument? What is up YouTube? If you haven't guessed already, we are making another video about Hitbox. I did make a video about 2 weeks ago about Hitboxes / leverless controllers, but that was only going over like the advantages of a leverless controller, and it didn't really go into why it's kind of controversial right now, why people are calling it the cheat box. So before all that, if you don't know what a hitbox is, you might need a little bit of context on the controllers we use in the fighting game community. So fighting games grew up in the arcades. That's where they spawned, I guess, and fight sticks were created to play on consoles. So you have the little joystick and you have the 8 buttons. And the difference between that and a leverless type controller is that there is no joystick here. Instead, you have the 4 buttons for up, right, down, and left. And you know, for a long time, fight sticks were the default controller of the fighting game community. That's what people were used to. But as fighting games came to consoles, obviously people playing on consoles might just have a pad. They're not going to have a fight stick automatically unless they were planning on playing a fighting game. And a natural evolution of fighting games coming to PC is a leverless type controller, which is just like an all button controller. Hitbox is the leading brand for leverless type controllers. They're the most well known, so a lot of people just default to calling all leverless controllers hitboxes. And part of the reason it's been getting a lot of discussion is because a lot of top players have been switching to Hitbox. Here, Daigo Umehara announced his partnership with Hitbox. He's been using Hitbox since 2019 at least. And Kawano, won Evo 2022 Street Fighter V with a Hitbox. He's also been using a Hitbox for about 3 or 4 years. And the reason why a lot of players, myself included, have been switching to Hitbox is that Hitbox has a lot of advantages over a fight stick where you have a lever. And if you want some more context on those advantages, I talk about it in the video I made like 2 weeks ago. But essentially the advantages I touched on in that video were having better movement, being able to walk and block a lot easier instead of having to move your joystick from left to right, which takes a little more time than just lifting up your finger. And you also have the option of dashing faster on a hitbox. So if you want to learn more about that, go watch that video first. But those aren't really the advantages people are mad about, just the precision aspect of it, being able to have better movement. I think what sparked a lot of the recent discussion was this tweet from the Hitbox account, which says, "God super, 4 deadly frames, they input a super." Let's just check out how they do it. So, very fast. I'll explain how it works in just a second, but this is not possible to do in 4 frames on a levered controller on a fight stick. He's pulling off a full super input in 1/15 of a second. The game runs at 60 frames per second, so 4 out of 60 is 1/15 of a second. About, I think, 0.7 seconds, 0.066 seconds to input a whole super. I tried myself on like a stick input. I tried to time it. I don't think I was very accurate, but it takes like 2 to 3 times longer to actually input the super on a levered controller for me. But if it were just the speed of the input, people wouldn't really be mad, or they wouldn't have an argument for being mad. But it's this specific one input right here where they press down, or they input down by doing left plus down plus right, and it's labeled SOCD that people are mad about. And I'll get into that in a second if you don't know what I'm talking about. So on one side, you have people on the side of Hitbox saying like, this is the future, we're gonna get more precise, faster inputs. That's just pretty cool. And on the other side, I think this kind of fueled the controversy. Watching people cheat with these controllers really makes me wonder why I went through the effort of supporting them in my arcade, because it honestly just depresses me. This isn't innovative, it's just cheap and sad. So they're basically saying that hitboxes are an unfair advantage and they should be banned. First of all, it definitely is innovative, at least, because it's just really cool how they thought of how to do all of the inputs. Let's just take another look at the inputs. So they're trying to find a way to do a fast super from walking back, inputting 4 directions in 4 frames. They hold left, they press down and right, so they don't have to let go of the left. Then they release everything to forward, and then they slide their finger to the down button and then they use their right hand to press the right button. And then yes, I do agree it's cheap being able to super it this fast, but I also don't think, you know, it's sad. I think this is pretty cool. And the word that I disagree with the most from this tweet is this word right here, cheat. And I'm not talking about Auric specifically because so many people have been saying that Hitbox is cheating. Hitbox is like a cheat box. And I do think they have some valid points, but cheating is just not the right word for a default Hitbox. All right, so I kind of half explained this SOCD input before. You might know it from my last video. You might not know it at all. You might have guessed what it basically does. SOCD stands for simultaneous opposing cardinal directions. So it's either hitting left and right at the same time or hitting down and up at the same time, and how your controller reacts to that. And the default Hitbox actually does it different for left and right together and up and down together. For left and right cancel each other out, which was why left, right, and down gave you a down input. And it leads to things like that super shortcut from the tweet and this DP shortcut that I'm going to show you right here. So for a dragon punch, one of the ways you can input it is down, forward, down, and then down, forward, and then punch. And this is kind of a clever way to abuse the SOCD cleaning of a hitbox, in which left and right cancel each other out, to make an easier input for yourself. And they do this by holding down two buttons, the down and the right button, and then all they do is tap the left button and press punch. And the reason this works is you get your first down forward input just by holding the button. When you initially tap the button, you get your down input because all three are pressed and the SOCD cleaning cancels out the left and the right. And then when you let go, you get your down forward input again. So by pressing one button, you get a whole dragon punch input. Obviously, this will be a lot faster than if you try to do it on a arcade stick. All right, so that was pretty cheap. Maybe this Auric guy is right. Hitbox is cheating. That left plus right giving you neutral input seems like a mistake, but wait until you see how up and down interacts. If you press up and down at the same time on a hitbox, you get a up input. So remember how I said they do them differently on a default hitbox? Left and right gives you neutral, they cancel out. If you press up and down, you lose a down, you only get an up, you always get an up. And this allows for instant flash kicks. So the input for a flash kick, you know, you charge down, back, or down, and then you have to move to up and press kick. On a joystick, this requires you to physically move the lever of your stick from the down back to up and press your kick button. And there's going to be travel time between your down back and your up back. Because the down and the up don't cancel each other out and you get an up input on a hitbox, you never have to let go of the down input. And now you kind of understand why this is very good, is because all you have to do to input a flash kick if you're charging is tap up and kick at the same time while you're holding your charge, and you get the input. Because if you're holding left, down, and up, you get a back left input. You see that right here, SOCD. So why am I saying that this isn't cheating if I'm showing you all these reasons why the SOCD cleaning inputs seem very cheap on a hitbox? It's not cheating for Street Fighter V at least, because the official Capcom Pro Tour rules state that these methods of SOCD cleaning are currently legal. You can see right here for right and left, if they're input at the same time, a controller must either maintain both of the inputs or abandon both. In the case of hitbox, it abandons both. And right here, a controller may take upward directional input only when both upward and downward directional keys are input at the same time. So in the case of a hitbox, you press up and down, you get an up input. So cheating is just not the right word if you're using a default hitbox to compete. If it follows the rules given by the Pro Tour, you're not breaking any rules, you're not cheating. And Eris posted this video about hitboxes, and I think he summed up my thoughts on this pretty well.
The way I see it, if you are trying to win, then you have to use all strats that are available to you to win. You see what I'm saying? And if Adderall is not banned, use it. If having a hitbox with cheap ass inputs is not technically banned because they don't police it, use it. I think that type of cheating is not even really cheating. That's exploits.
Yeah, so all of these SOCD cleaning shortcuts that people do with the hitbox, they're exploits. They're not cheating because the rules currently accept them. And I don't think that's really disputable at all. And I'm not saying that the people saying that Hitbox is cheating don't have like good points, or they're not like valid for how they feel, but the way that they're arguing by using the word cheating makes it pretty hard for you to see their point. And also the fact that they generalize hitboxes and the advantages of hitbox to say they're cheating also makes it hard for you to see exactly what they're complaining about, because I don't think that most people have a problem with the main advantage of a hitbox, which is the improved movement. Having more precise movement, being able to walk and block easier, I think that's just a good thing, and I don't think that most people are saying that hitbox players are cheaters for that. I think most people are talking about the SOCD cleaning issue, and I think there is a pretty good argument in saying that the SOCD cleaning rules as they currently are should be questioned. So now we need to get a little bit back into the history of the first instance in which Capcom started making rules for controllers, or at least rules concerning the SOCD cleaning. So you might have realized when we were talking about how you can do instant flash kicks and immediately go back to holding your charge, that if the same rule applied from up to down as left to right, you would be able to do instant sonic booms. You would be able to hold left and just tap right when you want a sonic boom and instantly go back to charging, which is not possible on a arcade stick, and it is certainly very good in terms of guile zoning. And the most well-known Street Fighter player, Daigo Umehara, was poised to abuse this tactic, to abuse the instant sonic booms and the instant flash kicks. Because back in 2019, right before Daigo was about to attend Combo Breaker, Capcom didn't have this rule set yet, where the left and right inputs had to be clean and cancel each other out. And Daigo was like publicly saying that he was going to use this controller and abuse this tactic because it was not against the rules. And the controller that he was going to use is called the Gaffro box. That's what we're going to call it. It's basically a hitbox, but the left and right don't cancel each other out. What it does instead is prioritize the last input. So if you press left and then you press right after, you get a right, which allows for the instant sonic booms. And then just days before Combo Breaker, Capcom announced that the controller gives the competition an advantage that does not follow the spirit of the CPT. Whatever that means, it's very vague, but Capcom actually acknowledged that this technology was too cheap, that instant sonic booms from Guile were not fair. So I think for charged characters at least, this last input pressed rule for the SOCD cleaning is much more cheap. Capcom acknowledged this for left and right, but they didn't for up and down. So the question is, why is an instant sonic boom unfair, but an instant flash kick is fair? I feel like Capcom just did not think too carefully about it at the time. You know, they had to make this decision pretty quickly, and hitboxes were already out there. The default SOCD cleaning rules of the hitbox, I think, have not changed. So if Capcom made a ruling to ban the up and down as well, then I think that would mean that they're essentially saying that hitboxes are illegal, and then a lot of people would be forced to find a new controller. So I think that's why Capcom did it, but is it the right decision from them? I mean, it's definitely up for debate, but I personally think it's very weird that left and right and up and down are not treated the same, because if an instant sonic boom is decided to be unfair because players cannot physically do that on an arcade stick, why are instant flash kicks not similarly banned? Because you also cannot do that on an arcade stick. So I think either you allow both of them or you ban both of them, but it's very weird that they are not the same, that it's not consistent. But then there's the other issue of left and right also giving you new shortcuts. So if Capcom's reasoning for banning the left and right gives you a right input for the instant sonic booms because you're not able to do that input on an arcade stick, shouldn't this be banned too if it's giving you a shortcut that you can't do on an arcade stick? And there's so many different shortcuts that this can be applied to. I showed you one shortcut with the SOCD Dragon Punch earlier in the video, but this one is even crazier. For some reason, Street Fighter allows you to do forward, down forward, and up forward to get a Shoryuken. And the way you do this is way faster than a normal Dragon Punch. You press forward, hold it, you press down, hold it, and then you press up and punch. so you never have to let go of a button. And you know, Hitbox patting themselves on the back, 3-frame dragon punch, very, very cheap. And then I showed this one in my last video about movement. This is an instant dash to do a dash that is faster than you can do on a leverless controller. You press forward and then you tap back. And the way this works, you get your first forward input from the first forward. By tapping back, you get a neutral, and then by letting go, you get your second forward input. Since the input is 2 forwards, you actually get the dash to come out. So I think I've shown enough evidence that, you know, left and right gives you a lot of shortcuts, very important shortcuts that make it possible to do things that are just not possible on an arcade stick. Is this wrong by itself? I don't know, maybe not, maybe yes, but I think it's a problem that Capcom has banned one thing, but not everything else, because I think the same logic should apply to all of the shortcuts. You know, if one thing is decided to be unfair, every single shortcut that is better than an arcade stick in some way should also be deemed unfair. Either I think you release the ban on the left and right and allow the left-right instant sonic boom stuff to rock, or you ban everything. Basically, this whole debate's about like what is good for the game, what the developers really intend to be possible and not possible, and that's best answered by the game developers, who besides Capcom for the Gafro box, they haven't really said anything besides that. So without like word from like an official source about the rules, people are just, you know, making up their own rules about like what's fair. So you might be wondering, how would a ban on like all these SOCD cleaning inputs look like? Would that even work without being able to ban a hitbox and a pad? Well, first, I don't think that pads and hitboxes should be banned, because I think that like the precise movement that they provide is good. Like, I don't think that you should be against precise movement in a game. It just makes the game feel better. You play neutral at a higher level. And for hitboxes in particular, like, fighting games are moving to PCs, and hitboxes are basically just a fancy keyboard. You can't expect people to need to buy an arcade stick to play your game and like expect a large player base. So I don't think that should be the direction developers go. I definitely don't think they're going to go that direction, because it's just going to hurt their sales. You know, if they're banning keyboards. But basically the way this would work is they change the requirements to a first button priority when you hit simultaneous opposite cardinal directions. So if you hit left and then right, then you get a left. And if you're holding down and then you press up, your up never comes out, you're just still holding down. So now there's no issues with like fancy SOCD shortcuts, because the only inputs you actually get are inputs that you put in, and you have to let go of your button before you get the opposite button. So instant sonic booms, instant flash kicks are no longer possible, because if you just tap forward while holding back, then you'll just still be holding back. And things like the instant dash also won't be possible, because you will never get the neutral input if you don't let go of your button. And then the rules for controllers could basically be either your controller does this first input priority cleaning itself, or it does no cleaning and then the game does the first input cleaning for you. So how would we actually be able to ban these SOCD cleaning inputs that we currently have today? The answer is first input priority. So, you know, we had last input priority with the Gafro box, where you get instant sonic booms and instant flash kicks, and you had the rule where they cancel each other out, which allows for like instant dashes and then like crazy DP inputs. And that super in the Twitter clip you saw earlier, first input priority would have, if you press left first and then you press right, you still are just on your left input, your right input never comes out. So now if you try a shortcut like an instant sonic boom, the right input never comes out because you're still holding the left. And if you try an input like the instant dash, then your neutral input would never come out if you're still holding left, because you still have your left input. There's no way of doing any sort of fancy input, because you actually have to let go of your button in order to change to something else and press the other button. All right, so yeah, in conclusion, hitboxes, pads are good. They allow for more precision and movement. I like that. I love better neutral. I think the rules with right and left and up and down being inconsistent is very suspicious and should definitely be looked at by Capcom and other game developers, and that they should make a decision and, you know, let us know, you know, communicate that. If they come to the decision that they want to ban SOCD cleaning, then they should just go to this first input priority system. No need to just overall ban hitboxes and pads, because you can just do this. You shouldn't be mad at competitors for doing anything that is like actually allowed, picking a top tier controller like a leverless controller or a pad, picking a top tier character, you know, like Luke or Poison in Street Fighter 5. Don't be mad at the competitor, they're just trying to compete, play at the highest level, what the rules say that they can do. And yeah, that's going to be the end of the video. Hopefully it was insightful. Hopefully I gave you, you know, some insight into both sides. Both the anti-hitbox and the pro-hitbox camps. You know, personally, I don't really think I'm biased. I'll play with anything that is allowed. You know, I am a competitor, and if something is cheap and allowed, I'm going to use it so that I'm not behind everyone else. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like and a comment down below, and hit that subscribe button, because 70% of you watching my videos are not subscribed, and that's kind of sus. I'll see you in the next video after you hit that subscribe button. See you in the next one.